Hassel here, co-host of the Nerdy Man Room Show. And we proudly present to you Man Room Shorts. Your discretion is advised. My next one's Bishop.
Oh wow, I didn't even think I didn't even consider him as an underrated one, but yeah,
But dude, like he pops on the scene in the '90s. He's such a kick-ass character. I loved it, and I loved him even more in the animated series, even though they give him that really bad Southern accent that I didn't really understand why he got that. But I loved him in the animated series. I loved him in the show, the books. I was a big fan of him, and I did a lot of things with him. He was one of the few characters during Age of Apocalypse that remembered, so that brought him a little more prominence.
yeah.
And then they done was it Extreme X Men?
The one where they were kind of a police force.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
with the
he was in
and
that.
the red suits. I
Yeah,
remember him
yeah,
still being
yep.
kind of big on that there, and it seems like shortly after that he kind of faded off, and then they done that really terrible storyline with Cable and him and Hope.
Yeah, that killed him for
I didn't
me.
like that. I didn't like them trying to turn him into a bad guy at all.
Nah.
The story got worse and worse and worse. Then it just shows back up like nothing had happened.
Yeah.
Like,
And, I mean they're
what up,
trying to use
guys?
him more now in the Marauders, and he's the war captain for the Krakoa since Cyclops rescinded his position to lead the X-Men team that they were putting together, and so they're trying to use him more now, but at the same time they don't really focus on everything he can do.
I haven't seen them do much with him since that crap with Cable and them. I remember I read a few issues here or there, I guess, where he was there and they vaguely touch on it, and just for whatever reason he's moved on.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess
But
whatever his beef with Hope was no longer matters. But
well, supposedly she was the one that supposedly started everything.
yeah, but it's future timeline. So which future are you going to go with? I guess it was his version versus Cable. So
Yeah, there you go. So what you got next?
my next one was Sunfire.
Ooh.
I thought he had one of the best looks for his classic look out of any of those old characters like that they brought in,
Mm-hmm.
and he's extremely powerful because his power is not just fire; it's actually plasma, which is that's the heat and the fire inside the sun. That's a chemical reaction. That's a nuclear reaction. But just like Iceman, he should be extremely powerful. They never use him. He was the first one to look and say, "Hey, I came and helped you guys out, but I'm not joining your team." You could play off that so much and bring him back in for different storylines and stuff. And he's just been mistreated over the years. He's had his legs cut off by Lady Deathstrike.
Oh wow.
He's gotten his powers back. He had one of
Yeah.
the coolest looks and power sets inside of Age of Apocalypse, and
Oh
then you come
dude.
back and we do nothing with him again.
Well, you come back, you revert him back to his normal stuff, and he has actually a great retro look. He's
Yeah, I
one of the
love
few
his
whose
old school
retro
look.
look I still like. I mean, is it as bad as that? Badass as the Age of Apocalypse? No. Yeah, but you cut his legs off. It becomes one of the four horsemen in the regular timeline. So
Yeah,
he goes right back to the Age of Apocalypse look. And then, because like, wasn't it him and Gambit at the time were a horseman together?
yeah. Gambit was death,
Gambit was death, and he
and he was
was
famine.
whatever.
Yeah, he
So
was famine.
but then they fight it off and they kind of work. And so you think they're going to do something there, they don't. Then he's like popped in and out throughout the last few years. But I mean, they could do a great deal more with him than what they do.
He's on the X-Men team right now, and they hardly ever show him other than to show him, oh, show up and shoot the swall of fire and go do this, and then you leave. He gets like 2 panels out of the whole book. He's not even hardly in it.
More and more you tell me about this book that I'm not reading, thankfully. It's something like an episode of Super Friends. Where like for 30 seconds you have Mr. Tornado fly through and
He was called
scoot back
Samurai.
off. Yeah, that's the name.
So let's do a quick check. How many do you have left on your list?
I
Because I know we've
have
shared some, so I kind of lost count.
I got four left.
I got four as well. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're on the same level. Now, do you have any honorable mentions, or did you just have the four left?
I do have one honorable mention. I
All
do.
right. So we'll continue going forward. And I just wanted to do a quick check just to make sure we were on the same amount here. So I just went. So it's your turn.
Gambit.
See, I didn't go for him because he's has so many consistently good stories. But yes, he is right now.
He's just
Right now,
faded
he's
off
just
in the,
Mr. Rogue.
last 10 years. I mean, he started out, I mean, he was like kicking Wolverine's ass in the books. He's got a little backstory with Storm. And through the 90s, he was such a prominent character in the blue and gold. He was a
Yeah.
part of the animated series. He was actually probably one of the more favorite characters on the animated series,
Oh yeah.
regardless of who you speak with. I
Oh yeah.
mean, even
Yeah.
though
He
most
was.
people,
He had that cool charisma about him.
yeah, yeah. And he has a lot of really great storylines leading out of there. And then it's like at a certain point, probably shortly after, I guess, Apocalypse made him death, it's like they didn't know what to do with him anymore. Like he
Uh,
lost his cool factor, and I don't understand why, because he was such a cool character. Like
that's
he would
because
disappear for a little while, and he'd come back, disappear for a little while, and they did
they took
that.
away all of his mystique, man. There's nothing left to him anymore. So now it's like if the more you know about him, just like Wolverine, the more you know of the story,
I
the
was going to
less
say
cool
that.
they become.
Back when he was Logan and didn't know who James Howlett was, he's far more interesting.
And
Because
he was,
it's cool to always chase that, but and
yeah.
tease some stuff, but or maybe get a little sliver here or there. But once you just pull, it's kind of like Oz. Once you pull the curtain back and you see the great and powerful Oz as an old man back there, eh.
Was the same thing with Gambit. He was much better in the chase to try and win Rogue's heart as well as be an X-Man than it is now that he's married to her and he's Mr. Rogue. Nobody really cares about him. They just care about her.
I
It's
miss
like,
Rogue. If
yeah,
she was calling you sugar, you'd care.
yeah. My next one was Rachel Gray.
Mm.
This girl has been. She is nothing more than Jean Grey light, and not even that because you got Emma Frost and Betsy Braddock and all around, but they hardly ever use her for anything. She's always this angry little woman with spikes on her stuff now. And it's like she's been a hound, she's been an X-Man, she's been the Phoenix for Christ's sake, and now even though she's still just as powerful, you don't do anything with her.
So
Honestly,
they were
since
still using her
Excalibur,
kind
she's
of
been
prompt.
wasted.
Yeah, they were still using her a little prominently when I was still reading, so I hadn't considered her. From what I've looked lately, Jean Grey is more of is when she didn't know if she was Marvel Girl or that went back to that old look like you're not 17 no more, honey.
No,
And I was like, ah.
and that's what they treat Rachel like she's the older child, the more petulant older child of the Summers kids right now. The way they write her right now,
Oh
but
really?
honestly, since Excalibur and stuff, to me, she hasn't been. She's been there and she's been doing stuff, but she's not been forefront and prominent. Before that, she was a huge part of the X-Men books because of the future she came from and
Yeah.
trying to prevent some of that. And in Excalibur, she was probably the most powerful member besides Captain Britain, and she was a focal point for a lot of it. But now she's just kind of there.
Like I hate Botchalo's artwork, but I did like that story they did with her
Oh,
where
well, where they tried to kill all the family off,
yes,
and she got the big tattoo on her back, and
that was a good
now
story.
now they don't even touch on half of that stuff.
Really, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's a waste. So who do you have next?
I got a goodie on the next one. You might pop for this one here. Strife.
Oh man, that is a waste of a character they had.
Man, he was such a great damn villain. I mean, he's Cable without fighting the virus. He's unhindered. He's unchecked, and he was raised by Apocalypse.
And he is the most petulant villain. There is no redeeming quality to his villainy.
No, there's like
He's
a
like
lot of villains.
he's like the little brother you want to kick the shit out of half the time. Like kick him in the chest and holler, "This is Sparta down the stairs."
Well, like Magneto, even Apocalypse, you see like certain aspects, like, well, he ain't wrong. It ain't right, but he ain't. As Falcon will say, that he ain't really wrong.
Yeah,
You know, but with Strife, it's like, oh, you're such a douchebag. There's
yeah,
nothing there. But you like it at the same time. And he's such a powerful, and he's got a great cosmetic look. Even though it's a very dated look, it just transfers over. It's kind of like Magneto. Yeah, he was created in the 90s. I mean, 60s, I'm sorry. But that original look is the best they've ever given. I don't care how they try to
oh
tweak
dude,
here or there. Stick to what's tried and true. And Strife is one of those that look will that costume will still look just as damn great 20 years from now.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was straight villainy, and that's all he was. And it was perfect for his character.
And you can pull Executioner song now and reread it.
Oh, that's one
It
of the
holds
best ones to
up.
me. Yeah,
It holds up. It's such a great story.
that's one of the few that I still have all the issues, but I don't have the collected edition. I need to get it because I love to just pop that one out and read it every now and then.
But see, I'm the opposite. I have like hit and miss. I probably have like 7 of the issues, but I have to collect it. So it is one I used to dust off every couple of years and try to reread, but I'm a little overdue. I need to kind of bring it back out.
Yeah, that's same for
Who
me.
do,
But
who do you have next?
well, since we're on Executioner song, this one's going to be a not a huge part of that one, but he was a bigger part of one of the teams, and that's Cannonball.
Oh, I muddled the line of getting him several times. He would have definitely been an honorable mention.
Dude, he was leader of the new units. He shared that duty with Mirage, Moonstar, whatever you want to call her. But then he became a leader in his own right, especially when they became X Force. And he was Cable's right hand man, but he was like the field commander under Cable as the general. But then
But
Cable left.
Danny gets more love than he gets for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah, but then Cable leaves, and he's like, "Well, now I'm going to take over the whole thing here," and he runs the whole thing himself. When he becomes, then he's the first of the new units to graduate and become a true X-Man. And when he became an X-Man, I was like, for the first few issues, I was like, man, they're really downplaying him. And then when he takes out Gladiator in that Christmas special issue they wrote,
Oh
I was
yeah,
like, they finally did him justice.
dude, how cool was the cover to that book that where he went to the X-Men? Like I still remember, like he's in that new outfit and he's got a duffel bag over his
He
shoulder.
walks away. Yes.
Dude, that is you can't redo stuff like that. It's so great.
Yeah. And then he takes out Gladiator and you know just completely decimates him and is like, well, your power is all based on how confident you are. How confident are you now that you've hit my blast field and it didn't do anything? And then he hits him back with his own energy. And then, you know, he became an Avenger. And they did him okay in the Avengers. He really didn't have much to do there other than whatever he was given to do as a task, but he really didn't have many lines and stuff. But with the Extreme X-Men was another time I really enjoyed him because he shows up there and you got Storm and Bishop running the Extreme X-Men. Cannonball shows up as a member of the team, and then he puts them all in his place and actually leads half of the missions they go on towards the end of the book. He's like, yeah, I've got all this figured out. Where have you guys been? But now they do nothing with him. And I really miss the external stuff that they had with him where he's supposed to be immortal. And they
Well,
weren't.
that was a storyline that never really come to fruition. It seems like
No, and then they keep backtracking it now, saying, no, we were wrong. He was not one. And the external still exists, but he wasn't one. It's like, why couldn't he be? Why did you have to take that away? I mean, that was one of the biggest things about him was he's immortal, but what does that matter? I mean, he's still on the team. He's still doing his part. Why did you have to take away the special part here? Because nobody knows what to do with the story, I guess.
Yeah, and in the last few times I've seen him kind of played out in the book, all they wanted to play on was his southern roots, and he was basically like chewing cornbread. You know, it was like, oh, come on, what the hell?
Yeah. So who do you have next?
Vulcan.
Fair.
I mean, this kid is introduced. You finally get the third son of brothers. Not who you expected. It's out of left field. You get it. So okay, cool.
Technically the fourth now because we finally did get the third one much later on.
Is an extreme confirmed?
Yeah. And X-Men Legends is confirmed because
Okay.
that is a continuity straight book, but it's telling stories from the past. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, whether he's third or fourth at the time, he was introduced as third, even though they robbed us from extreme and give it back. Thank you, Marvel. But he's introduced as such a badass. I mean, you got the Deadly Genesis story. That was a good story. It redone a lot of things. It made Xavier like a fucking douche, really. But yeah, which is the only thing I didn't like about the story. It did kind of make Xavier villainish, and that's the first time you get that really like, ooh, he's kind of slimy. But he was such a kick-ass character. And then he goes and rules the Shi'ar.
Yeah.
Fucks his own uncle up pretty good. You know, and does a lot of really bad things. He's such a powerful character. Then it's like him and Black Bolt battle in space, and which is a pretty cool story. And it shows just how damn powerful he really is. And then it's like they didn't know what to do after that.
No, they didn't. They killed him off in that, and then they brought him back now with House of X.
Well, I'm saying once he's returning House of X, He's just a background character.
It was, they started, I thought they were going to do something with it because they started in a couple of before X-Men, because X-Men ran a series and they stopped and they rebooted it another #1. But when they were running the previous one, like the first 5 or 6 issues was all about the Summers family. And like he kept having like little blanks in his memory and stuff and having these bad nightmares. And they're like, calm down, calm down. And they're all living on the moon and one of these little habitats Krakoa is built for them there. And he just walks out onto the moon at one point and just unleashes a burst of power just because he's having issues in his own mind. And I was like, are they going to go somewhere with him? And then nothing. 5 issues, and it was all about them and him. And then he's just now they're living with him. So because all of them live in the same habitat as Havoc's there.
I seen something
Cyclops
briefly
there.
about where they were living together and hit like they're at a grill out. That's really all.
Yeah, they're at a family grill and stuff, and
he's out here cooking fucking hot dogs. This is a badass character, and he's just eating hot dogs.
Something was wrong with his mind, and they never fixed it, but they never did anything else or explained it. It's like, okay, we don't know where to go with this, so we'll just stop. I guess that's what happened. I don't know.
It's the new Marvel way.
Yeah.
So who do you have next?
We're getting down to the nitty gritty, but I've got 2 left. But my next one was Sunspot.
Ooh.
And I'll give him credit. They brought him up to the Avengers as they've let him lead some other teams and stuff. My thing with Sunspot is he's extremely powerful. And they really very rarely harp on the other powers he has, like flying and shooting the energy and stuff that he absorbs. But it's mostly about him absorbing solar energy and then being super strong, right? But when in New Mutants, he had to learn how to use that, and that's what made him an interesting character to me. Is that he had that strength, and yes, now he can fire that out as a blast. He got that later because of Gideon's experimentation and stuff on him, and that's cool to give him that. But he was one of these people who is super strong, and so most of the time he's fighting hand to hand, but he ain't invulnerable. That's the one weakness he has, and everybody else, the super strong, is there. Oh, you can't hurt them, and they're super strong. He didn't have that. He was one of those people that, yeah, he can be stabbed and shot if you can get past the heat coming off of his corona effect, but he could be hurt. So he's got to learn a different way of fighting and doing things other than Colossus will walk out there and just take the hit and then hit back.
Yeah.
He's got to avoid that and then hit you back. So
did it seem to you, and this is just for my own curiosity, did it kind of seem to you like at a certain point they started playing more off his rich corporate executive type?
That's exactly, yeah.
Around
that's
the time
exactly
he
where I was
started
going
fucking
next.
around, it was AIM, wasn't it?
Yeah. He bought AIM. They became Avengers Ideas Mechanics. He sold that off. Now he's even richer now, and he's bought like some stuff he's doing like intergalactic business, and he's bought some stuff in the Shi'ar territory. He has a thing for Deathbird, and she kind of likes him, but they're not really dating because it's her, and she's villainous somewhat. But I mean, they're giving him a little more to do now, but it's still also like, why are we dealing with that versus let's build his character, make him back. And he was a hothead at one time, and now we've developed his character to be a business guy, which is cool. You let him grow, and he's not just a hothead anymore, but he's not really prevalent in stories where he's being a superhero. He's prevalent in stories where he's being the comedic character.
Yeah. Well, didn't it kind of change something about his powers? Like the more he used them, it was like he was burning him out or something.
Yeah, he had the Mpox virus where the Terrigen Mists had infected all of them when it went around the Earth, when the Inhumans released that. And that was killing mutants because it would burn their powers out and all. So, yes, when he was with the Avengers Idea Mechanics, he was dealing with that. But now he's been resurrected. It's back to normal powers.
Of course. That was apparently the last thing I remember seeing with him was he was, shying away from using his powers as he had to. But I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, so who's your number 10? Because I think we're on the number 10 now, right?
My number 10 was Onslaught.
Oh, dude.
You talk about a fucking kick-ass. Can you think of a way of bringing a character in any better?
No, that was a great story when he first appeared.
The story was great. I mean, you first hint of who he is. He's sending Juggernaut flying across the planet. I mean, he's like messing with Jean Grey. I mean, you had a really great story that after that, where you lost major heroes to keep him from. The Hulk had to bring the Savage Hulk back to tear him apart to get to that point to where the other heroes could sacrifice themselves.
Right.
It's a great story. So if you were going to bring him back, why do it in the ways they've done it back? I mean, literally, he's been too many series that I could think of since then, and they were both trash.
Are you including the recent one? The Way of
Yeah,
X?
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I remember the one with the Heroes Reborn that they done a little mini with them, but it had the heroes from the Heroes Reborn that are branch of Avengers, and that reality. Where Bucky kicked his. Matter of fact, I think Bucky wound up kicking his ass in that.
Yeah.
And then they just done this other one here where he was hiding in the shadows there of Kakarot, and they done nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't Nightcrawler defeat him in this one?
Yeah. Nightcrawler and Legion, mostly Legion, because he was feeding off. Every time they died, he would feed off of portions of their souls and stuff when they would return. Which could have been a great storyline, but it's like, where did this? It just fizzled.
See, that could have really led to something, but you would have to make him a huge, prominent villain again, which would expose the danger of what they're doing there. And I think they probably realized real quickly into that story what it looked like to, like, oh shit. So let's do it with it real fast. It's like a sleight of hand, because that would have really exposed, if once he would have rose back up, I'm sure the Avengers would take notice, the Fantastic Four, various other world nations, of what these dirty mutants are doing over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So my number 10 was Multiple Man.
Okay.
He gets used a lot of stuff, but they don't use him well. And I'm like, this dude can create multiple copies of himself, reabsorbing all their knowledge. He's got multiple doctors because of that. He was Moira McTaggart's lab assistant, but most of the time you play him for a comedic effect. I'm like, dude, he can do so much more.
Understood that, or that bullshit detectives story they done for a while there.
That wasn't terrible with him because it at least gave him something to do. But like now they just have him there and he does a bunch of stuff, and it's just like, I don't know. It just seems wasted. It's like you could do so much more because he could be his own one man army. He could be his own book by himself, and be a team. And
does it still sport, the M on the eye, or is that gone now?
I gotta look. I don't remember. Last time I saw him, I thought it was still there, but I'd have to look and see. And he was the one that I teetered on. Should I really put him on this list or not? Because they've given him so much to do, but then I look at him like, well, everything he's done has just been really kind of boring. Could have done much more with him. But with that, I think that brings us to honorable mentions. So I got 3 of them on mine, but why don't you quickly go through whatever you have on yours, and then I'll run through mine quickly, and we'll move to Nerd Out segment.
Some of the ones that I had on mine, you've already touched on in your list, so because we were of the same thought on a lot of these guys. Joseph is a character, honorable mention that
I almost grabbed him.
Hey, man, I loved the character. I really did. He was a character that I liked, as you had a good version of Magneto.
Yeah.
Even though he wound up being a clone, and then he's self-doubting himself the whole time because he's just a clone, but he's trying to help the X-Men. And it just seems like they just didn't do nothing with him after they did so much with him to build him up, and then and the last thing I remember seeing, I just remember seeing him posing as Magneto for something, and within a few panels, I think he got killed.
I don't remember what he did after the main storyline he was in, to be honest with you.
But one of the last X-Men stories I remember reading, I think it was leading into all this crap with where they started doing the resurrection stuff. But I think I remember him showing up and he was posing as Magneto, and then within a short amount of time, he is oh shit, this ain't Magneto, it's Joseph, and then they kill him. He even grovels to say, hey, I'm just doing this because of this, and they kill him. He was there and dead in the same issue.
That's kind of how they treat most of them now.
Yeah.
But they get resurrected next issue at this point.
This poor bastard did not.
So is that all you had for honorable mentions?
I got one more.
Okay.
Nate Gray.
He was on my list. X-Man. He was on my honorable mentions as well.
I love the character up until they pulled that Jesus storyline with him.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
Like, I was like, why? Why?
He was again, just like Strife, he was an unvirus tainted Nathaniel Summers, Gray, whatever you want to call
Super
him.
Omega level mutant.
Yeah. And he could have done so much and could have learned so much. And I really liked it when they had him and Cable finally meet up in the books. And at this point, with the Summers clan you got there, you could have Rachel and Nate and Cable and all in the same, same cookout barbecue with Vulcan and stuff. And it would be interesting just to see them together. But like, he no longer exists. They got rid of him totally.
Yeah, how did that end up? I mean, I started reading that and I just like really quickly within 2 issues. I thought, this ain't for me.
I remember right. They were off. He created a separate reality. They came back from it, but at that time he sacrificed his own energy and life when they did that. So he's not even there anymore. I don't know. It was it was so unmemorable that it's even hard to talk about.
Wow. So who do you have as honorable mentions?
I had, and these are all for kind of the same reason, but I had Richter, Polaris, and Magma. Richter and Magma both being New Mutants and then coming forward, and they really didn't do anything with them after that. They bring Richter out every time they just want to have him around for something. But Magma, I never understood. She was a New Mutant who had the power of tectonic plates and fire and stuff, and they downplayed her all the time, like, oh, she's a waste of space. Why? She should be extremely powerful. Same with Polaris. She's Magneto's daughter, and you use her sparingly, and you make her crazy when you're not using her, or when you're not using her well, I should say.
Oh, dude, I just thought of that one character from around the Stream X-Men time. I'm about to jump in on you. What her name? Skin?
Which one were you looking for?
I think she's one of the Guthries.
Oh, yeah, that's Husk. That's Cannonball's sister.
That's one thing.
Cannonball's younger sister.
She kept taking a gold like Colossus form during that book there. It was really cool.
Yeah, and her form could change depending on what she needed because all she had to do was rip her skin off. But she was one of those, and they drove her crazy in a recent run of X-Men books a few years ago. They had to fix her mind, like she was going insane, and Toad was in love with her and stuff, and he was trying to help her out. And this is when they had
Toad's love interest.
But dude, they do nothing with those characters. They just run them off again. I mean, she's been back on there, but so has the other younger brother from their family, the one that had the red wings that killed himself. Remember, that committed suicide? Icarus, I think was his name. He's back in there now. Their other sister, Melody, who can just fly. She's in there. I'm like, what? That's great to have them all back, but what are we doing with them? Like the whole Guthrie clan is here, but they're just there. But like, there's like 8.
What made the ones that were surviving great because they had lived through that tragedy of having so many, a family of mutants basically murdered off.
Yeah, the only person who wasn't a mutant was the mom and dad. There's like 8 kids, and every one of them was.
They were a mutant factory.
Yes, they were.